Hello everyone, welcome to the third and final game of the Tag Derby tournament. This time we'll be playing Armored Intrusion, if I know correctly. Pretty much this is a panic room mission, like objective room based mission, which is second turn scoring. If you want any details, then just go to the first video in the list. We'll be playing against military orders, against like the winner of the ITC solo event in terms of satellite. Michał, my colleague from the team I took on the ITZ, and he's bringing military orders this time. So military orders against Vanilla Pano. Yeah, I think it will be a good game. There is only one overlapping model, which will be the Crux. As I'm playing John, he plays Knight Commander. So let's just very quickly get into the game and unpack my opponent list, because obviously I'm going to be playing anti-Pano list, right? So this is a military orders list, and I'm pretty sure I got the miniatures right, but not exactly the order. I remember it was kinda an even split, but the hidden deployment or combat jumpers might be different between the groups. But all in all, this list revolves around the Seraph. The Curator is there to support it, so this is pretty much a package as they come together. Then there is also a Techby, just a filler, I get additional Gizmo Kit and the Activator. And then we have a bunch of stuff that's hidden deployed, and this is a list that is gives your opponent a very big headache if they don't really know how to play it. And you play against such kind of lists by just ignoring them, because the more you try to get inside of your head what can be hidden inside, what can be hidden, what can be deployed, where the attacking threat vectors are, the more you will basically play against yourself. And this is not a state you want to be. You just understand that there's a lot of stuff coming, because like there's train number 1, train number 2, and then there is the train number 3, the sniper, also with the Crusader and the Crusader. So there's 5 models that can potentially be off the board. Michał in this game started with 2 Trinitarians on the board, leaving just the sniper and the Crusaders off the table. But there's also a Crux Knight, right? So there's one more additional off the table model. The Mulbot exists only to propel the combat jump for the Crusaders to make it more reliable. And then the rest of the list is filler. Like there's a Fugazi, you obviously need some kind of lieutenant. My opponent decided to go for the Knight Commander, which was then Hollow Mask as the person. And I'm going to be honest, I kinda got myself caught for a second before we started turn 1, even though I knew that it was willpower 13. The Defersen kinda was like, okay, there's a Defersen, but nevertheless it was irrelevant. I knew exactly what pretty much my opponent can have based on how much points he was missing, which is pretty much he can have everything. So at that point, just guys, like everyone's watching, if you run into situations where there is a bunch of stuff missing, don't overanalyze it. It's completely pointless to try to get inside of your own head, because you will end up seeing snipers that are not even there, and you will be, playing into your opponent's hand by just, getting into your own head. So against this kind of list, just take it at face value. If I remember, then in this particular mission, my opponent won the lieutenant role for the third time in a row, and decided to take the deployment zone, which was more advantageous, and I decided to just go hard second. The reason for that is quite simple, because this is an objective-based room, so that's pretty much easy, but also the terms of matchups. At this point, I don't know what my opponent is really running in his list, so I expect a lot of knights that can, get inside of the room, close combat me, and I will probably be outvalued on martial arts. And my list is not really designed to hold a room. Cutter is really shitty at holding the room, and it gets you points for having a tag inside of the objective room. And at the same time, the only 2 models that can reliably survive inside of the room is the Crux and Joan. And Crux has only martial arts level 2, so he's not super good at CC, and Joan is my lieutenant, so I don't really want to risk her. So it was more of me trying to avoid a situation where I will be just pushed out of the room consequentially. So I decided to go second, particularly because I know that I have to deploy first. Then I'm already at a disadvantage against military orders, right? Because they can't do lists like that, right? So I decided to just go hard second, which makes me deploy first. The Bolt is my reserve piece, so the Bolt was put down as the final miniature. And here's how we create our defensive perimeter. We deployed this Fugazi to deny my opponents any shots and to cover this area. The second Fugazi also covers this sort of area, and the goal is to deny my opponent as many long-range firefights as possible. The cutter, well, so the Aquila is deployed on this roof. I kinda expected there might be a Tigbalank or a Seraph coming, so I don't really want to get shot from like this type of building. Unfortunately, I kinda underestimate how quick and mobile Seraph is, and my opponent will find some angles on me. But Joan and the ball chain of command are the most important pieces to hide, so they are as far back as possible. The biker isn't really the only way the only spot that it can't be killed, and it also kind of protects myself with heavy riot stopper. Then the Hilot's important, the Crooks Knight is deployed here, and he has a long fire lane this way, but he has 2 dice, so I believe that he can tank at least 1 volley of shots to survive, which is not correct. The Trauma Dog here on the rooftop, also in a position where she cannot really be killed. I would rather take shots on someone else than the Trauma. And then finally the Cutter is deployed to cover this sort of area, right? Because this is what I believe the most likely areas of approach for my opponent. So the Crooks contest this line of fire, the Helots contest those 2 line of fires, so like this Helot also contests this one, but there is nothing contesting this line of fire, which I hope will lure my opponent into the thinking that this is the easiest way for him to attack, so that's why the Cutter is located here, to have long fire lane there. Luckily, as it will later turn down, the Cutter also has a line of fire there, but kinda just getting ahead of myself, but this is how we kinda deploy ourselves. The boat will be my reserve piece dropped here in the situation, because I've seen all of my opponent's stuff, and there will be a motorized bounty hunt, motorized Montesa deployed here, so I know that my opponent will likely choose this avenue of approach, so that's why I reinforce it with the bolt sniper, to also like double stack with the Cutter. So my opponent's reserve piece will be the Seraph, so Seraph is currently out of this picture, let's pretend. Knight Commander, like I said, pretending to be at the first end, I get myself caught in this trap for like 5 minutes. The Evo Hacker, the baggage bot for the bike, so the jumpers, so this telegraphs that there will be combat jumping happening. The Montesa, like mentioned, left flank, Pathfinder in the middle, Dart in the middle, and the Seraph will be deployed on this side of the table because my opponent finds really cool, really great angles. So I think this is a good deployment, particularly with what my opponent has to work with. There will be a sniper located here. One Trinitarian tried to infiltrate on top of my console but failed, so he's in the corner. And there's also the Crooks, and there is also the Trinitarian. Unfortunately for my opponent, it kind of bites him back in the ass, that the fact that he took so much of hidden deployment, combat jumpers and so on. So he's kind of struggling for all this, but still Seraph has like 6 or 7 orders, plus like 8 orders with NC on technical orders. It's something crazy, like really crazy that Seraph gets 3 orders. So that was definitely shocking for me, and yeah, I think it's a good idea when the Montesa has an approach through here, the Dart can approach through this angle, and the Seraph can approach through this angle. So my opponent creates himself 3 avenues of the attack, and this kind of keeps him flexible, as opposed to the previous game where my opponent bottlenecked himself in just one way to go. So my opponent promptly starts the turn. I drop 2 orders from the Seraph, but Seraph still has plenty. So Seraph still flying in here, and the second order, because it flies super fast, it engages Bolt Sniper. It takes him, the Bolt Sniper wastes 1 order, and the second one just makes the Bolt Sniper get critted off the table. Then the Seraph moves here, jumps over this piece of terrain, finds the angle against the Crooks Knight, one-shots him, jumps over this building, and finds the angle on the Aquila guard. I first take a shot with the Aquila. I failed to hit. The Seraph deals a wound to Aquila. I could have revealed the Cutter, but I decided not to, because at this point the Seraph has 3 orders remaining, and it would be kind of easy for the Seraph to just spend 1 extra order shooting, 1 order retreating and shooting, and it could potentially bring down the Cutter, which is my win condition. So I risk it, take 1 wound on the Aquila. Then when the Seraph has exactly 3 orders left, which means that he has to start running now, there is no extra shooting happening, then I reveal the Cutter, only then. The Seraph splits the burst between the Aquila and the Cutter, hits the Aquila but fails to do anything, and the Cutter one-shots the Seraph. This is extremely extremely lucky for me that the Cutter actually one-shots the Seraph. This is not exactly happening quite often, but big stroke of luck for me, and I could not be more happy than the fact that the Seraph just got killed. We talked about this after the game, and Seraph could have retreated to this position and then got repaired by the Curator. I would still probably get him, but this would completely change the first turn, which was very good for me. But my opponent does not decide to relent any pressure, and since the Cutter is revealed, he decides to go all in on the Cutter. There is the Evo pops up the combat jump move bonus. Crusader Brethren with a Spitfire apiece starts maneuvering all this way here. The Cutter dodges this direction because the Crusader either landed or something breaking the stealth happened, which means that there is a line of fire now existing between the Herald and the Cutter, which is very important. This puts the Crusader in a very peculiar situation where it cannot go the other way around. So my opponent just decides to send it and just go for the Cutter. I reveal the Hilot. The Crusader splits the best between the Hilot and the Cutter. But the Cutter, well, it just obliterates the Hilot, but the Cutter just punches the Crusader down into the ground. And I'm now free from the EM pressure until my opponent brings out another Crusader Breton, this time with a body shotgun, and tries dropping him here. Luckily for me, the Crusader Breton fails his physical roll, ends up somewhere here behind this building. The final orders are spent on the Montesa, just moving forward, and this completes my opponent's turn. While the end result was the Crux Knight, the Bolt Knight killed, and one of the Hills, which is an Aquila almost dead, but not quite. This is and it cost my opponent a Seraph and a Crusader. This is a very good turn for me, but I'm going to be frank that I was lucky, like really lucky with one-shotting the Seraph, and this kind of sets the tone for this game, and I'm not about to drop the advantage I gained from the luck I had. So Aquila jumps down from the building and starts advancing forward. I hesitate for some time, thinking where a Twin Sniper might be, because I expect at least, well, I expect one, because at this point I know that there are two more on the table. But I decided to just jump it, because regardless, this will happen if I will delay or not, so I just, better risk it and maybe survive. But there's no Twin Sniper, because the Twin Sniper is here. So the Aquila starts advancing. On the way, first I shot the Fugazi, really easy face-to-face roll. Then I maneuver myself forward and get an angle on the Dart and the Pathfinder bot at the same time. And this comes one more time with the MSV3 being really good, is that now I can just pop up and Dart has to reply or take 3 shots into the face, which saves me an order, which is extremely huge. Because the Aquila now just puts 3 shots into the Dart, 1 shot into the Pathfinder, deletes both of them, and still has plenty juice remaining to retreat in behind the building. Cutter, in the meantime, with combination of Joan Arc, Lieutenant Order, and so on, moves forward. I kind of had a mistake on the list because there was a turret from the Curator, but I think I'll never risk. Anyways, the Cutter just kind of moves forward, and I use the Cutter to shoot the turret off and retreat him pretty much backwards. I think the Cutter don't really do anything super useful. Or wait, sorry, I think it just went up and tanked the mine. That kind of makes more sense. So I use the Cutter to tank the mine and then use the Aquila to kill those stuff. Give or take. Regardless, I retreat with the Cutter, I retreat the Aquila to the starting position. Cutter, then Joan spends their tactical awareness to shoot X-Visor bullets into the Seraph, finishing him off. And we're set up for a very strong turn with the Aquila and the Cutter retreating. Then finally I spend the Joan's LT order or our order and a command token, either of those two, and put both the Cutter and the Aquila on suppressive fire. At this point, the Herald also covers this area with the Montesa, so my opponent is very much behind and he has to make some plays happen with the tools he has left. So it starts with the Crusader Brethren going around and shooting disco ballers next to the Cutter to prevent the Cutter from seeing anything. But again, a big stroke of luck to me, because this is outside of 32 inches, the Crusader Brethren just shoots 2 disco baller and whiffs both. And my opponent, instead of going to the baggage bot to reload and try again, decides that it's time for more aggressive approach and just completely denies this. It was kind of more of like a tilt moment where my opponent just did not see the ability to reload and decided to go for the more aggressive, more luck-oriented play. So the Montesa moves forward, discovers the Hilot. I mean, the Hilot shoots, but regardless, it takes an order between the Hilot and the Montesa. Nothing happens, and the Montesa kind of waits for the cutter to have a go at something, and it's like in a checkmate from the cutter, right? So again, if the disco ball were reloaded and the cutter was disco balled, then the Montesa could have made a play, but currently he's stuck. Trinitarian appears from hidden deployment and walks all the way here trying to get to the console. Cutter along the way promptly breaks the suppression, discovers the Trinitarian. Then the Trinitarian is like inside of 8 inches from the cutter and starts sprinting toward the console. I shoot it, Trin shoots me back. I get like a 1, Trin completely whiffs and just gets turned into red mist. No, sorry, I mean, yeah, pretty much, give or take. But I think I messed up the order because the Montesa was the first one to go through the Helot and the Aquila, and Cutter actually obliterated the Montesa with a suppressive fire. But it was like the Montesa traded for the Aquila with a boarding pistol and with the Helot. Then the Trin dies because the Cutter breaks the suppression. This is the other way around, which is also a mistake now that I think about it, because my opponent definitely should have gone the other way around and first use the Trin to put the Cutter out of suppression. But it didn't really make a huge difference. An explosive round from the Cutter would still kill the Montesa, just the same. This finishes up the turn 2 for my opponent, and it's pretty much up to me to clean up and seal the game. So that's precisely what I will be doing. So this is the unfortunate Trin. The Cutter moves forward. The Trauma Dog revives the Aquila at some point, but it has some relevance. It revives the Aquila. Joan gets inside of the room with tactical Lieutenant Order plus tactical awareness. Aquila comes up close. Then the Trin Sniper reveals against the Cutter, and the Crooks pops up from the hidden deployment and tries to put a crazy koala to prevent the Aquila from moving forward, which is fine. And then I move back with the Cutter. I take the crazy koala, put shots into the Crooks. The Trinitarian Sniper is not contributing at all. Without the crazy koala in the way, the Aquila just comes up, one-shots the Trin Sniper. Then the Cutter finishes up the Crooks Knight, puts a bot out, and pushes the console. This kind of what happened. I think I first put the crab bot, then the Crooks revealed. Something like that, but pretty much the Aquila killed the Trinitarian, the Cutter then cleaned up the Crooks Knight, pushed the console with the beeper, Joan enters the room, and that's kind of the game. I have one order remaining, which is the Cutter moving back, shooting the final Trin off the table, and my opponent at this point has Lieutenant Knight Commander, and like a baggage bot and something like that. Knight Commander actually tries his luck against the Aquila, but dies to one shot on a 15. And that finishes up the game with full 10-0, I think, from me. The score is definitely not giving what the game was about, because my opponent really put a lot of pressure on me, but they just kind of overdid it and they tried to win big in the first turn. And what I think we should have happened, and we talked about this after the game with my opponent, once the Cutter was revealed here, sure, going for the Cutter is a big brain play, but one, I have an engineer next to it, second of all, I have a switch on, so it's not very likely that the Cutter will just get destroyed by the Crusader Brethren if he has 4 or 5 orders to perform the full attack. It would be much better if my opponent just put the Crusader Brethren on this side of the table and kill the Fugazi that's located here. Let me just grab my deployment zone. So the Crusader Brethren could have landed on this spot, killed the Tekbi, killed the Fugazi, got the Hilot, got the Fennec, and that's it. Like 4 orders for the Crusader Brethren with a space 5. Like I said, every time, thanks for watching everyone, and I promise that I will be working on my how to do lists video now. So thanks everyone for watching, and bye.